So you've probably heard Alex Hermosi, Cody Sanchez, Gary Vee celebrate entrepreneurship, buying businesses, entrepreneurship, all of that good stuff. You've also heard me talk about Ed Milet that says only 9% of us are kind of wired to be entrepreneurs. So I thought I'd have a conversation with Bo, the concierge to small business lending, about one question only. And that is, who should just quit their job today and go for it? Bo, you've seen and talked to lots of people. I am curious, what are some traits? What are some conditions? What are some opportunities where you should say, folks, you should go for it? What do you think?
All right, perfect example. A couple. I think they are from one rental. Yesterday, I spoke to the husband, and he's making 300 grand a year, W-2. He works in AI. I'm not going to name names right now. And his wife is making about 60,000, but she's going through some certification. She'll probably get up to 150. But so to me, I said to this gentleman, I said, look, you don't have an income problem right now. You have no write-offs, and you live in California. So what would make sense to me is maybe your wife takes a consulting gig in the field she's in, because she's only doing 60 grand only. Sorry. She's making 60 grand right now. You're making 300. You stay where you're at for the next couple of years. And then we invest in some sort of franchise that's got good tax advantage for it. Your wife works the day to day. You work on the thought leadership stuff for the business. And then we grow it over time, and we get a business that we can always find more and more tax advantage opportunities. So he liked that. So it'd be interesting to see him, because he was talking about starting a business from scratch. And I'm like, well, why start a business from scratch? Because then you have to think about it more. You're probably pretty good at following systems and playbooks. That's why some sort of business opportunity or franchise makes sense. So I believe his wife should quit her job eventually. And because if you really look at it, what's the difference? The tax savings component of a loan of her not taking her 60,000 W-2. I think if you actually did the numbers with a good CPA and you said, hey, I'm buying this junk hauling business and I'm buying $200,000 of dumpsters, how can we position this? And if they did an analysis, eventually I want to get that good. I could do analysis for people, but I don't do that. But people can do that. And it's the same thing like when you're buying a property and you can do a cost segregation, you can get a free analysis. Then you take that to your CPA. You want to be doing these things because you want to say, like, what do I end up with at the end of the day in my pocket? And how much time am I putting into this business? So I believe that couple should have this conversation. I believe the wife should quit her job.
Well, that's interesting. So I think what you've highlighted there, and I had no idea where this conversation was going, so I'm glad we're having it. If you're if you're in filing jointly, if one of you is a high income earner and the other isn't, in this case, it's husband, wife, it could equally be the other way. I know plenty of lawyers and whatnot where their husband doesn't make anything. It is because when you think about what she's making today in this example, 60K gross, she's probably taking home 28, 27, just because they filed taxes jointly. She's in the 52% tax bracket in California. It makes absolutely no sense for her to work financially. It probably does for emotions and contribution and all of those other very, very good reasons. But if they started a business together and she was running it as the CEO and she was able to, buy some dumpsters or vending or some capital or whatever, she could make more money in tax savings on her husband's income because it's active. This is a very good idea. And again, you could have her in this example go through an analysis to figure out what business she's good for. You know what? I don't know what certifications she's going for, but wild idea. There might be a business that's in that area that she could go into and already have the certifications and going for it. So I think it is a great idea as a couple, as a unit, filing taxes jointly, especially if one of you makes an outsized income that pays the bills. The other one could start a bit. And then, oh, by the way, you fast forward it 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe the other one could quit. Maybe you could do more stuff together. I love that as a start one. Who do you got next? Who else should quit today and become an entrepreneur?
Talked to an ORAT guy yesterday, and he's a very well-paid nurse. I'm not going to name names. And he's been doing it for like 25 years, lives in California as well. And he's like, look, he can get like partial pension in two more years, but he doesn't want to stay on for another 10 to be fully vested. It's like, I'm done with this career. His
Mhm.
wife is also a nurse, and he's like, what do I do? And he's talking about some ideas he had. So I'm building a business model review for him. And what I do is I give people the business assessment, and then I have a conversation with them, and then I grab 7 or 10 ideas that's available in their market, and I say, hey, look, these are the businesses that I think would be a good place to start. It's not exact science, but based on our conversation and your business assessment, let's look at these business models. And then he talked about his children. So I said, obviously vending might make sense. And he said, at first he was like, nah, but then he brought up his kids. So that's another thing. And now we're doing a lot with these AI coolers, which are like really awesome vending machines, which open up the doors for a lot of opportunity,
Mm.
which also have probably good tax advantages depending on your situation. So I'm going to create some business models. One business model I thought about him for him was he wants to be more absentee. So have you ever been to like you went to like a Walmart or a shopping center, and there's these big giant bins out there where people recycle clothing?
Yep.
Yeah,
Seen that. Yeah.
yeah, it's actually a pretty darn good business. I
Mm.
never thought about this, but I'm working with a group, and they've been doing this for 30 years, and they just started franchising the
Mm.
model. So the idea is you put out 60 bins in your market, and then you build it to 100. You have a small warehouse. You actually sell the recycled clothing per pound, and it's actually a pretty awesome business model. So it's almost like you have these machines. It has a meter on them when it's filled up. You get one worker, they go pick up all the stuff, they bring it to the warehouse, and you package it and you sell it in a big
Mm.
truckload. And I think like it's per pound, and the numbers are pretty pretty awesome. And then I started researching it because I'm like, I'm always looking for stuff I can do. So
Mm.
the things I want to do potentially, obviously vending. I just went to NAMA, which is the large vending conference. It's huge, and it just opened my eyes even more to vending because it's all about unattended retail. All these and one thing I overlooked too was coffee as a service. I didn't realize how big coffee was. I knew Starbucks, but you talk about every big employer has coffee service, and that's just a recurring revenue. 95% of it's recurring revenue. So all
Mhm.
these ideas, but the ones I like personally, vending. I like the payroll franchise. I like medical staffing. That's a business opportunity. I mean, you're talking like we have a candidate going through, and he's calling other owners. You're talking about some of these owners are doing multiple millions of dollars in revenue
Mm.
yearly. Yeah,
Wow.
huge opportunity. But I also like this green business with the bins because I like the fact that I could buy these bins, and I would say they're probably you could probably write them all off. So I'm just scaling the business, and I'm getting same thing with vending, right? Like you just add machines, so you always have all these deductions, and you're
Right.
increasing cash flow. So
Yeah.
I like all these things. But who should quit their job? Anybody that's not happy where they're at. If you're not happy with what you're doing, and I don't care if you're like, like you need that that money right now. I get it. We need the money, but I want to get you in a position where you don't need the money. What does that mean? It means you tighten up your belt a little bit, and you do like a expense analysis. What am I spending per month on all my expenditures? Mortgage. Okay, let's get 12 months of reserves in a bank. Now, you might not be ready today, but let's get you to quit your job in the next 12 or 24 months. That's my mission for everybody. Everybody should own a small business. Now, if you're a 300, 500, $1 million earner on your W-2, you might not want to quit today, right? Because you might want to ride that pony because it's good money.
Mhm.
But you're also thinking side hustle. Everybody needs to own a business, period. You need a side hustle. I talked to one
Yeah.
of your listeners one time, and it's just like changing the framework of what people. Guy crushes it. He makes just like 700 grand as a financial planner, and I'm like, and he's like, I want to own a business, and he already had been down the road, and so I didn't help him buy the business, but we had multiple conversations because that's the way I want to help everybody.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, my wife's a real estate professional, and we have $2 million in real estate we just bought. I'm like, you don't really have an income problem. You have a tax problem. So like, I asked if his wife was deemed real estate. Does she materially participate? You got to meet that 750 hours and all that kind of good stuff. He's like, yeah, she can qualify for that. And I'm like, here, call this. call this cost seg company and call my CPA that I refer people to and have a conversation with them. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking he could probably save like 200 grand on his taxes. Sure enough, true story. I get a call from them or a text. The CPA Michael that I work with, and he's out of Chicago. He was here at a conference, and this guy, they met together because they're doing work together. And I'm like, God, like, I wasn't even, wasn't involved in anything, but other than I just connected them. And I'm just thinking that I told him, hey, you owe me sushi because you probably saved 200 grand. So I think everybody should quit their job if they don't like it. But you might not quit today. You might quit in the next year or two, but I think we should all start creating these plans. A lot of people though, unfortunately, I talk to and they're like, they don't have any money. And it's like, that's a problem. Like, okay, you make 130 grand a year and you have no money. So how do we change that? I don't know. What do we do?
Well, I know the other thing you just got to get your money right. I mean, we aren't taught money in school. It's a great tragedy. I have an advanced degree in finance and wasn't taught money. And it's a problem. And I think you hit the needs analysis first. I call it getting your money right. So do an evaluation of where the money's going, right? Nothing can happen until you know where it's going. And Olivia and I, through sacrifice, took our wants from, basically half our spending to almost zero. We took care of the needs. We took care of our daughter. But yeah, we sacrificed for a decade. Lots of people look at us now and go, I wish I was you, but you certainly didn't want, you want the destination, not the journey. The journey of 10 years of sacrifice while people are laughing at you or talking behind your back. You don't want any of that. Yeah, the destination's pretty cool. But the last thing I think about when I think about Hormozi, Cody, Gary Vee, all of these is what is the college or like what is the high school senior or maybe even, the college sophomore who just doesn't want to go anymore, right? It's not for them. I think one thing we're seeing in Gen Z is a realization that college is a scam for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. And the fact that I see Gen Z more and more going to the trades is a wonderful thing. But I think there's a level up from the trades. Instead of being the actual plumber or the actual painter or the actual AC repair person, what if you found a way to buy a business, to buy a franchise? And then, by the time you're 25 or 28, you buy a building, then you buy other franchise and you create a vertical integration and you are now the housing whisperer, right? I think a lot more high school seniors and freshmen and sophomores in college should frankly ditch college and go start a trade or better yet, go buy a franchise. What do you think?
I agree 100%. I wasn't a good student. I didn't go to college. I tried to, and I dropped out. I got my real estate license, got into lending. What I wish there was more of like financial literacy as I was growing up. Like if I would have just been a decent saver, I would have been 10 times ahead. And I think why they need to teach this stuff. And so now the beautiful thing is there's like channels like we're on right now, or right, we're going to show this channel where you could just be watching this on a daily basis and just going, okay, owning a business, owning real estate, CPAs talking about all these tax things. You can really start just growing and building your mindset early. What I notice about me, and I think the same thing occurs with a lot of people, is that, we get money in and we're just using our credit. We don't really pay attention to how much we're spending. So what I found that works for me, and the only thing that works for me is one, either buy real estate because it's like a forced savings to me. Yeah. It's like I'm putting a down payment down and I'm going to forget about this house for 10 years. That's a great way. The other thing is what can you get? Can you get an auto debit from your account that just every month, a couple $100, and that gets out? Like I'm going to set up more of those because I don't miss $400, $500, $600, $800 a month because I'm so busy with all the, I have a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out with expenses. But if you just get those little things out and you don't see them anymore, then you forget about them, right? Like,
yeah. Couldn't agree more. Agree more. At the end of the day, I think there's a lot of folks, certainly not all. I think we've talked about it a couple of times. If you love your job, go nuts. If you're a high income earner, go nuts. But I do think there's a lot of folks out there, especially as we see the world of AI. We're talking about more white collar recession stuff with Microsoft. I think more and more people should create a plan B. And I think being an entrepreneur, starting a small business, buying a franchise, tasting vending are all things that people should at least consider. And in order to consider it, they have to reach out to you. And how do they do that, Bo?
You just go to onerentalmeeting.com and schedule a call. That's the easiest way to do it. And then, we'll have you take a business assessment. We're not going to pressure you. I'm so busy right now. It's hard to pressure anybody to do anything, but I want to work with you. I want to at least show you what's out there to open your mind and then start just doing. I will say this, guys, like Zuber talks about, you have to do the work. It's the same thing in our space. Like there's no like put my money in and it's just going to magically grow. You're going to have to do the work and you're going to have to manage this asset. And you're going to have to learn leadership skills and learn how to deal with people. Same thing in real estate, right? You got to deal with contractors. You got to deal with realtors. It's the same thing. But if you want to change in your life and you're like one of those people that's doing 6 figures a year and you don't have much in your bank account, there's a problem. So we got to figure out what that problem is. And then we start pivoting. We make baby steps, micro steps. I call them micro commitments too. By you just raising your hand and going to onerentalmeeting.com and scheduling a call, you're making a micro commitment to yourself to see what else is out there. And part of the thing I see with so many people is they're stuck. They're scared and they're like, I don't know what the next step is. And my job is to just kick you in the butt a little bit and give you some idea. So I'm starting to do workshops now on like just getting unstuck, because that's the biggest problem people have, getting unstuck, like mindset stuff, building up those calluses and just doing the work day in and day out. And I was trying to think I just was listening to you on Brian's podcast and I can't remember what you were talking about, but I found it like really interesting. Well, one was the 15,000 steps. That was pretty smart. I go, okay, well, the reason I'm not losing weight is because I'm not doing 15,000 steps a day. Right. And so like, maybe I'm not ready to do 15,000 steps, but what if I do 5,000 steps a day? And then I can build up to, but that's the whole thing. You had said, oh, well, I haven't changed my diet yet and I lost 20 pounds. Why? Because I take 15,000 steps a day. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like if I just know if I take 15,000 steps, I can lose 20 pounds and I can still eat my sushi and stuff. That's a good compromise.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I lost 20 pounds. Nothing changed other than I did 15,000 steps a day for like a month. It was wild. It just fell off. It was crazy. Yeah.
That's commitment. That's commitment. Yeah. You were doing the work and you're committed to it, and you're committed to dropping your body fat down from 34% to under 10%. And like at 53 years old, that is extremely hard to do, to be under 10%. Anybody to be under 10% body fat is extremely what but at 50, I know I could talk. I'm 47 and like my body has slowed down a lot. And I'm like, okay, you can either let age happen or you can reverse age. And that's what you're doing. And I'm going to follow in your footsteps. And
nice.
Yeah. So I'm motivated from that, but there was something else that I can't remember at this time, but go to onerentalmeeting.com.
Folks, at the end of the day, I think there are lots of people that everybody I think should at least evaluate a plan B. I think there are lots of folks we talked about that it is a strategic move to quit and move forward. But at the end of the day, it all starts by going to onerentalmeeting.com. Thanks, buddy. Take care. Have a good week.
Thank you.